Hey guys, my name is Hueckel. I am 22 years old from Columbus, Ohio, and I want to share with you guys today about how the Lord just showed me his real presence in the Eucharist and how I came to have such a deep longing and a love for the Lord in the Eucharist. So growing up, I was born and raised Catholic, went to Mass every Sunday. Didn't necessarily like going to Mass, mainly because I never believed that Jesus was fully present in the Eucharist. So as opposed to finding all of my joy in Mass and in my faith, I found my joy in the sports that I played or the relationships that I had with people. But then coming to the conclusion in my life that the relationships that I have with people will end, and the sports that I'm going to play, I'm not going to be good at forever. So when I was in 8th grade, I was a swimmer, and my mom told me in April, she said, "Hey, have you ever heard of a Catholic youth summer camp?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounds boring." She says, "That's nice, I'm making you go." So I was thinking, great, I am not going to swim for a week this summer. I have to go to this dumb Catholic camp. So I go to this camp, and it was really great. There was blobbing, zip lining, there were like go-karts, paintball. It was crazy and it was awesome. But at night, when we would have talks about our faith and have praise and worship, I would just zone out. I would fall asleep because I didn't care about my faith, because if the pinnacle of our Catholic faith, the Eucharist, wasn't real, then what was the point of me being there? So one of the nights we had adoration. So adoration is when the Eucharist, Jesus, is placed in this trophy-like case called a monstrance. And the priest was walking it through the crowd of people with the monstrance, and he stopped right in front of me, and he lifted up Jesus. And as I looked up at Jesus, I got butterflies. And I realized then that this piece of bread has to be something more than just a piece of bread. Maybe it is Jesus. So I told myself after this week at camp that I was going to start to go to youth group and actually try to invest more in this. So when I would go to youth group, I would have praise and worship with adoration with Jesus there, and I would say, wow, like this is Jesus. Jesus is so real. There's music playing in the background. Like, yes, this is my Lord and my God, Jesus Christ. But then I would go to adoration with my parents on like Friday nights, complete silence, and I would say, that's not Jesus. In the silence, I couldn't find Jesus. So for 3 years, I was fighting this youth group Jesus, the parent Jesus, Jesus, not Jesus, Jesus, not Jesus, all these lies and thoughts going through my head. So I went back to the summer camp again as a junior in high school, and I really told Jesus that summer, I said, listen, you have to show me that you're real, or I am not going to become Catholic anymore, because if the pinnacle of our Catholic faith is a lie, then there's no point for me to be here right now. So we went to adoration again. We had adoration on the lake, and I was down praying, and I said, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Jesus, I believe that you're present, but I don't believe that you're present in the Eucharist. I heard this voice inside of me saying, Eddie, look up. And as I looked up, all my friends are laying prostrate, praying so hard, and I thought, this is really awkward. They're all praying, and I'm not. I have to go back down to praying. So I began praying harder and harder and harder. And 5 minutes later, I heard this voice even louder inside me saying, Eddie, look up. And as I looked up, my eyes were placed on the Eucharist, and that night I saw Jesus' face in the Eucharist, and it was the most beautiful, most glorious face I have ever seen in my entire life. And that night my heart was convicted. I realized right then and there that Jesus Christ was fully present in the Eucharist, and what made it even more special is that when I saw his face, he was wearing his crown of thorns, smiling at me. Basically, all the sins that I ever committed, all the disbelief that I had about him, he still didn't care, because he still crucified himself that day for me. And that night, I realized that that was him. That was him. And since then, I've had just such a deep longing and a deep love for the Eucharist. I just knew wholeheartedly that he was real, and my life was changed. I loved going to Mass. I loved receiving Jesus. I can't receive Jesus now without smiling on my face. And how awesome is that? So I just want to encourage any of you out there, if you struggle with believing that Jesus is present, be bold. Ask him. Say, Jesus, if you don't reveal yourself to me, I'm going to leave. Because that's what I did. And when I asked him, he answered my prayer. So praise God.